Welcome back. We're going to continue with our conversation about New York in the wake of the Garner death. And Scott, you made a point before the break that you thought it was wrong of the lawmakers to try to go around or circumvent Dan Donovan, the district attorney on Staten Island, and seek the Justice Department's intervention in this case before he's had a chance to do anything. And I'm curious, Dominic, if you think that's also a misstep in that case. Should Donovan get a chance to conduct the investigation? I know you don't think he's going to bring down an indictment, but should he have a chance?
Well, how long is that chance going to take? I mean, I have to, unfortunately, agree with Mr. Brodsky again.
Oh, man.
Can you believe this?
I'm back.
You're back. And I agree with him to the degree. The lawmakers were sending a warning signal to Donovan that we're watching you. But it's I've watched a number of DAs in these cases, and they will always find a justification for what they want to do. And at the end of the day, Donovan is trying to run out the clock. He's trying to let some time get by. And he's going to come back and he's going to say the grand jury decided not to indict.
He's an expert on the inner workings of Al Sharpton. You're an expert on the inner workings of Dan Donovan. And neither one of you know what you're talking about. The fact of the matter is that he should be given a reasonable amount of time. It's been, what, 2 weeks since Mr. Garner died? Roughly. You know, I don't think a murder investigation can be viewed as excessively long after 2 weeks. I think it makes perfect sense to say to them, and the Justice Department is right here over your left shoulder, and let's see what happens. Everybody relax.
Everyone relax.
Everybody relax.
So as we've talked about Ferguson and as we talked about the Garner case, issues of race have obviously come up. There are factors in both of them. But when you've got a policy like broken windows, or before that stop and frisk, or you just go down the list of any arrest numbers in New York City and most of the big cities in this country, minority arrests and minority convictions are disproportionately higher to the population than they are for white citizens of those communities. Regardless of what the process is, whether it's broken windows or stop and frisk, if you get a disproportionate result in terms of arrests or, in these cases, deaths, is the system inherently flawed?
No, I mean, 150 years ago, you had my people, or 100 years ago in 5 Points, getting picked off the street because they were committing crimes. I mean, there was a lot of crime. Poor people commit crimes generally. That's in poor places of the city. You know,
it depends on what you're measuring against. If you're measuring the number of arrests versus the number of people in a community generally, or in the city generally, or in the neighborhood where the arrests are taking place, most of the victims are low income and minorities as well. It's very complicated stuff. The stop and frisk and the broken windows are two different kinds of programs. They need to be very carefully watched, but you can't say that a program that actually identifies and arrests wrongdoers, even if it's in minority low-income neighborhoods, is in itself inherently bad.
But Scott, am I misreading the numbers? If arrest numbers or victims of police violence are disproportionately targeting one section of the community?
Well, it's the fear that proper elected officials, society has, that we are not treating people equally across the board. But it is also the problem with government is that it's the poverty in these communities of people of color, of people of general cultural differences. The poverty is difficult, and that's what government's supposed to be trying to get at to. It's true that more people in prison are of color or African American. It's true in Rockland, it's true in Westchester. The issue is, how do you deal with trying to get these kids, and primarily a lot of the kids, off drugs, out of the streets, and what have you? And it's a fundamental problem of society that results in these statistics.
I'll give you about 30 seconds for the last word if you want it.
Okay, 30 seconds. Something has to give. These incidents have to stop. The country is going to have a full riot if it doesn't stop. I mean, I understand that black people, unfortunately, commit crime disproportionately. But, I thought his wallet was a gun. So we fired 41 times. 41 times. We thought he was reaching for a gun. He reached into the car. He was running and I thought he had a gun. You can justify it 1,000,001 times in 1,000,001 different ways. It has to stop. And really, there are many of us, and now they're going to attack me, there are many of us that feel that this is all a repercussion of President Obama's election. That law enforcement is angry and is taking it out on many people of color throughout the country.
They're not going to attack you because we're out of time and we have to take a break. Up next, New York and Philadelphia roll out the red carpet to woo members of the Democratic National Committee.
The next section.
Does Brooklyn have what it takes to play host? Our panel weighs in when we come back.